This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Corporation of Marlboro College. I've been on a number of boards of trustees. This is the most dedicated, hardworking Board of Trustees by far than I've ever been on. And
Could you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry?
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Dick Saudek. I've been on the board for 23 years. I'm the current chair. It took me that long to be elected chair. And I live in Montpelier. And I'm a retired lawyer. So what I started to say was, this is a terrific board. And there are lots of people with strong knowledge and concern about this college and about this place. And we are very, very, well, I guess sad is the word. I mean, this has been a terribly difficult decision. And we have searched our souls and tried to determine what our duty and our fiduciary duty is as trustees. Now, I want to give you a quick outline of what I think are the primary drivers of our crisis, our financial crisis. And I want to compare a few figures for you. In 2012, I want to compare 2012 with 2019. In other words, that 7-year period, just to give you an idea of what has happened here. Our key problem, the problem that I think is driving everything, is the loss of tuition and fee revenue. And that is mainly driven by two factors. Number one, reduction in the number of students, and number two, reduction in the amount of tuition revenue that is realized by the college because of what we call tuition discounting. And the discounting means, grants and aid and scholarships and so on. There's a very, very competitive atmosphere right now that we are in. In 2012, we had 261 students. In 2019, 151. In 2012, our budget was $14.7 million. In 2019, it was lower. It was $13.9 million. In 2012, we got $6.9 million from tuition revenue. In 2019, we got $2 million. Think about that. In 7 years, we went down by almost $5 million in the amount that we got from tuition and fees. And that was a steady decline as we went along. In 2012, the budget was $14.7 million. The amount that we got from tuition was $6.9. That paid for 47% of our budget. In other words, between 6.9 and 14.7, we had to make up $7.8 million in our budget. That's in 2012, $7.8 million. So what do? We take a percentage of the endowment. We get very generous donations. The trustees and several very, very generous donors have been very constant to this college and helped us out. But we had, at that time, in 2012, we had to make up $7.8 million in order to hit our budget. In 2019, we realized $2 million from tuition, and our budget was lower. It was 13.9, but that meant that we had to make almost $12 million, 11.9 million from other sources. How do you get to 11.9? And remember, in 2012 it was 7.8, and now it's 11.9. I realize that we didn't all come here to discuss numbers, but I just want you to understand that those basic facts, that we have had to struggle to get almost $12 million after the tuition. And that is an enormously heavy lift. And really, we haven't been able to do it without taking huge slices from our endowment and spending down our resources very quickly. And that's in a nutshell, that's what's happened in the last several years, and that's happened to virtually every small liberal arts college. And that's why many of them are going over a cliff and they're going out of business. The trustees were faced with this problem, and we could see that time was very much running out, that we probably had only about 2 years to wind down if we just kept going as we were. And I'm going to talk until she sets it up. Okay, thank you. Got it, Terry? Tracy? Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'll just say a couple more words and then shut up. We went through a long process of trying to find a partner that would keep us on the hill and that would be strong enough as a partner to allow us to survive. And bottom line was that we talked to several of them in great detail, went over the financial situation, and finally, and regretfully, we had to conclude that there was nobody with the strength to do that. We didn't have the strength to do it. And so we decided that while we still could make a deal, we should go out and try to make one. Emerson was not particularly interested in they weren't interested in keeping the college up on the hill because of the expense. And they have a lot of property in various places, including LA and Holland, in addition to Boston. But Emerson would do what we wanted done, which was to preserve our faculty, our way of teaching, the independence of students in their decisions, and the self-reliance. They have, if you just take a look at their website and their institute. They have an existing institute which has a lot of the principles on which Marlboro is founded. But they said they would take all of our tenure and tenure-track faculty. They would gladly take them. They were interested in having them. And they would take our students under the same terms that our students now pay to Marlboro. There was no equivocation about that. As a matter of fact, at least their stated reasons for doing it, were that they really wanted to beef up their liberal arts program. Now, you know, there are differences. There's differences between Marlboro and any other place in the way things work and the way education is delivered. But by far the closest was Emerson, and by far the most willing to adopt the Marlboro way of teaching and learning was Emerson, by far. The other ones we spoke with just weren't going to cut it that way. So has ensued a lot of back and forth between the two colleges. Our faculty has visited Emerson at least once, many of them have multiple times. They've met and talked with the faculty there. There's been great openness, and there's a lot of very strong feeling. One of our faculty members said that this is far more than a pact in name only, but promises an opportunity to carry with us intrinsic elements of a Marlboro education we hold dear. It's that kind of feedback that we are getting from a lot of people. Sure, there are differences, and sure, this wouldn't be Marlboro if there weren't differences of opinion, but that's what we're getting. That is the kind of main feedback that we are getting, the major feedback. Now, do we have people on the phone, Tracy? 3 people? That's a quorum. And I'll call the meeting to order now that we have a quorum. Okay, great. Okay, the format here is that each speaker would get 3 minutes up here at the podium. The speakers can speak only once. This isn't the House of Representatives where you yield your time to other people. We will have a full hour for public comment, and that will start when it starts. If we need the full hour, we'll take it. This is a Vermont crowd. I don't need to say this, but I will. Everybody should be courteous and non-confrontational. Everybody's trying to work through this. Treat everybody, including me, with courtesy and respect. And I guess those are the rules. I think I've spoken enough, probably more than enough, so that's all I have to say. Now, where's the sign-up sheet? Okay, thanks.
You want to invite him to the podium, too.
Okay, we do have, I guess, some faculty have also have signed up. Oh, yeah, I did want to mention one other thing, and that is that we have formed working groups in the board to work on various aspects of this. And one of those is the use of the campus working group on the assumption that this deal will go through. And Emerson has been good about saying they are very interested in what that committee works out. It's chaired by Sarah Coffey, whom I suspect most of you know, and by Dean Nissiper, who preceded me as chair and is also a long-serving trustee and an alumnus of the college. We have 7 alumni on the board and about 5 parents of Marlboro graduates, so they are very familiar with this place. I guess the first one is, and please come up to the mic. It's the only way that you can be on TV. See, it's back there. And so we want Todd on TV. Todd Smith.
Well, there was a weird reluctance of people to sign up for the first slot, so I guess I'm the fool who will step in first. So my name is Todd Smith. I'm a faculty member at Marlboro, and I wanted to just first acknowledge what a difficult time this is for all of us, for people who live and work here at Marlboro College, for the local community, for the alumni community. It really pains me to see so many people I know in here and to be at odds with them about maybe what we're thinking about the future of the college. But I think because it's such a painful and emotional time, I have all the more respect for the work of the task force and of the trustees. And I want to just say how grateful I am for those groups to have made what I consider to be a difficult yet courageous decision because of the emotional and kind of fraught time. It's difficult for all of us, and they had to look at all the information they had and make a decision, and they made a decision that's unpopular in a lot of ways. And I'm grateful for the courage that they had to reach that conclusion, so I wanted to thank those groups.
Hi, I'm Kate Marvin. I graduated in 1993, and T. Wilson was my plant sponsor, so it's wonderful to see him here today. I'm here to speak today on behalf of the Marlboro College Alumni Association, which was formed about 8 weeks ago. And we've been hard at work. We have about 5,000 alums at Marlboro. We already have 550 people who have opted into membership on our webpage. The members of the Interim Alumni Council are Dan Doolittle, Jessica Taraski, Heather Bryce, John Coakley, and Randy George and myself. They wish they could be here today, but they could not be, so I am here. We want you to know that alums are the largest constituency of the college. There are 5,000 of us, that we cover 75 years of collective memory, experience, and learning. We're very cohesive, even though some of us are just still getting to know one another. Our voices, for a myriad of reasons over the past several years, have been muted. We're very concerned about what will happen to the college. The Alumni Council is here to give alums a voice. We have a collection of letters to give the trustees on behalf of alums who could not be here. And I've given a handout of a few excerpts from these letters. And I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts. It appears that you, the board, and you, President Quigley, are unable to conceive of a future for Marlboro College on the soil upon which it grew. This being the case, you must step aside and allow your alumni, faculty, students, and townsfolk, and others with a commitment to and understanding of the Marlboro ideal to be involved in a good faith attempt to rescue Marlboro from its proposed fate as a plaque on a wall in Boston. Without its rural campus, Marlboro ceases to exist. I want to speak also for myself and say that, that there's a lot of emphasis of being here on the Hill and what it's like on the Hill. I speak as someone who is not on the Hill and has not been on the Hill for a long time. But I carry Marlboro with me wherever I go. I'm a professor, I take it into the classroom, so in a lot of ways the really incredibly important work that is being done at Marlboro is being done all the time, off the Hill, just through individual people. And I think that that is what needs to be recognized as the power of the alums, and that our association is here for whatever happens to the college. We'll need to maintain our community, we need to shape the future of our legacy, and we need to preserve it. So I encourage any of you who want to join us or speak to us to find us at our webpage. We'll talk to you afterwards. Thanks.
Fine. I don't intend to speak for long. I just want to reiterate the feeling amongst the alumni, at least alumni who have contributed to the discussion of what's going on, that we definitely feel as though our stake in the college and its future has been woefully ignored, and that we do feel if the college in Marlboro, Vermont is gone, then Marlboro College is gone. And I don't think that point of view has been adequately represented. Thank you.
I'm Bart Goodwin. I'm a trustee, have been since 2002. For those of you who don't know, I have a son who graduated in 2004 and a daughter-in-law also 2004. And they have two children who I would love to see go to Marlboro. It's up to them, obviously, not me. But I wanted to present, I guess, a perspective that goes back some 15, 16 years. I've seen this college go from over 300 students, I think in around 2002, 2003. And it was a vibrant, energetic place. And for a lot of reasons, some which you can level at the trustees, some you can level at the Times, some you can level at the world we live in, but we are where we are. And it's painful. It's very, very painful for me, and I know for a lot of us and you and the community. But when we started this process, we hired an outfit called Parthenon to help us think through what we needed to achieve. And some of you participated in focus groups, met with the consultants, and out of that the number one thing that we came from the community is not that this campus survived. It was important, but the number one thing was that what we tended to over time refer to as the Marlboro DNA would survive. And we have tried diligently to look at alternatives for our pedagogy, our curriculum. The faculty can attest to that. We've looked at other alternative uses of the campus over the years, and they've not come to any conclusions or any fruition. And so, unfortunately, we are where we are. For this college to survive as it is right now, if we didn't change anything and tried to rebuild to 300 students, we need $150 million of endowment. We have 35, going quickly to 30. So the tasks to get to that are, in my mind, and I think the trustees, insurmountable as a go-it-alone institution. And if we can achieve what was the number one thing we set out to do, which was to protect and perpetuate the Marlboro ethos, DNA, pedagogy, I think this is the best alternative out there to us. In fact, more than just the best, I think it's a very, very good alternative. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Adrian Segar. I've lived in town for 41 years, and I taught at Marlboro for 10. And as many of you know, T. Wilson and I met with Kevin and Dick on Tuesday with a long meeting where we were talking about our different approaches to the future of Marlboro College. And at that meeting, Dick, you asked me whether, at one point you asked me, well, if the trustees did consider exploring something, an alternative, what would that look like? What would the plan be? Which is a really good question. And so we have an answer to that for you and for everyone for this school today. And was written by someone who unfortunately can't be here, and so I'm going to read it to you. Who is this person, you're wondering? Well, do you recognize, any of you, this guy? He's a little older than you might have last seen him. Anyone know who it is? Shout it out if you do. It's Will Wooten. Yeah, he's a little older than some of you remember him, but it's Will. Okay. Lulu likes this picture. For those of you who don't know Will, he spent more time on this campus at Marlboro College than not everybody in this room, but most people in this room. He graduated from the school in '72. He returned here in 1983, and he spent 19 years here as part of the administration. He served under 2 presidents and resigned left in 2002. And in 2006, he became president of Sterling College, a 4-year college up in Crossbury Common, up in northern Vermont, which is even smaller than Marlboro is right now. And he nursed it back to health over the next 6 years, leaving in 2012. He is also the author of this book, which seems totally appropriate to our current situation. It's called Good Fortune Next Time, Life, Death, Irony, and the Administration of Very Small Colleges. And he contacted us and offered this challenge that I'm going to read to you now. So this is his challenge to the Board of Trustees. To the Board of Trustees of Marlboro College, from Will Wooten, Ray, a challenge. It has been stated publicly and reaffirmed repeatedly by the College Board of Trustees and the administrative leadership that there is no alternative for Marlboro but the Emerson solution. President Quigley said the other day about whether the college could figure out a way to carry on, and we've heard this just now, quote, the trustees explored that option extensively, an option that was everyone's preferred option. There is no credible evidence to suggest that Marlboro can make it on its own, end quote. I've not seen, says Will, that evidence or lack of it. Thus, in the spirit of show me, don't tell me, and he has a little footnote here that this is something that was yelled at him by Huddy Herrick in the novel writing seminar in 1971. In the spirit of show me, don't tell me, I hereby challenge the Marlboro College Board of Trustees in the name of integrity, honesty, forthrightness, and fair dealing to a contest of administrative plans and projections. So here's the challenge. Give me and my small team, including senior members of the Marlboro staff, 4 days and a working space on campus and access to the evidence the Board of Trustees did examine, the financial spreadsheets and projections, any analysis of the impact of downsizing on student life, academic integrity and admissions and retention expectations, and within 7 days, we will deliver to the board a report showing how the college can welcome a new class in September and begin building for the future, or not. In that case, we will not deliver a report, but instead we will acknowledge and confirm the no credible evidence and retire. So here is, if you are watching the video of this is the URL where you can read this online, the statement I've just read out, and we've just handed out some paper copies of his challenge. Thank you.
The person following T is Cate Hollander.
Good morning, everyone. I'm T. Wilson. I taught at Marlboro for 47 years and served on a great many different quasi-administrative posts and committees and whatnot during my time here. I have 2 things to say, and I may not have time to say both of them. So the first thing I want to say is that there seems to be some sort of paranoia that there is a plot of pitchfork-waving people out there trying to overturn this. And as I explained to Kevin and Dick and several others who were present, there are many streams of people who are engaged as a consequence of this decision. Those streams are in contact occasionally and more or less by chance, but there is not one unified thing except that we think this is a bad decision and that it was arrived at by a bad process. The alumni were told in April that other small colleges were closing, but Marlboro was not on that path. In April, they were told that. In a letter, it's in writing. So, and we've just heard that we need $120 million. We've been told $20 million. We've been told $50 million. We've been told $200 million. Those are orders of magnitude apart. And if we don't know even how much money we need, then there isn't a clear plan. The other thing I just want to say very quickly is what will be lost. Marlboro College was founded and it had a governance system before it had a curriculum. They talked about running the college as a New England town meeting, consultative, engaging every member of the community. That was part of the prospectus before they even had a faculty, let alone a curriculum. That governance structure has been integral both to the way that the college has governed itself socially and politically, and to the way that it has governed itself academically. Students have a full role in forming their own education and in forming the college itself through their participation on college committees, in town meeting, on faculty committees. And that is not going to be transferred anywhere else. That is the DNA that makes Marlboro particular, unique, special. We do not want to lose that, not just we here on this hill, but we don't want to lose that for all of the alumni that are out there carrying that DNA with them.
And for our civic society.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Hollander, 02, and I just want to say I'm here with a lot of love and gratitude for Marlboro College. I was here and I did between 1998 and 2002, I did a plan with Tim Little, and Dana Howell. I went on to get a master's degree in poetry and a PhD in history, and I now teach creative writing and history at the college level. So I know a lot about the higher ed crisis, and my career has really been affected by it, and so I have a lot of sympathy for how scary it is and how impossible it feels. But I needed Marlboro. I really, really needed it. And so much of what I have in my life, including my partner, John Coakley, 02, who's on the interim council of the Alumni Association and can't be here but says hi and gives everyone a hug. I met him here. I have so many friends, and I have my career. I have my career because I was here. I learned at Marlboro that process has profound influence on product, and this process of finding solutions for Marlboro just hasn't been big enough, broad, or inclusive, or imaginative enough. And I'm afraid that future students and future faculty won't have this place that they're going to need, that I needed. So I want to just say very quickly my involvement. At the time of the UB announcement, I started working with a group of about a dozen other alumni from roughly the early 1990s through the mid-2005 to 2006. We were very concerned about the merger with UB, and I was personally concerned because I spent 2 years working at the University of Hartford, which is an institution very much like UB, and we had some concerns, and so we got together and we started drafting what was going to be a letter of concern about that merger and our fears for how it would impact Marlboro. And because we're Marlboro alum, we took a really long time and had a very democratic process, and by the time we were ready to send the letter as faculty to the faculty, the UB merger had fallen apart, and so instead we sent a letter of support. And I recognize now what I didn't recognize then, which was that we had the wrong tone, and I apologize for that. But we sent this letter saying, we all work in higher ed, and we want to help. Whatever you need, we want to help. We were mostly met with resounding silence, but that may have been a tonal problem. But we heard from the emeritus faculty, and they were all really excited. And so we started working with the emeritus faculty. And on the home days weekend, we had a meeting in the community center. It was supposed to be about 10 people. It ended up being 24 people, former faculty, current faculty, alumni, townspeople, former staff. And we came together and we started thinking of ideas that we could use to help the college, including improvements to the website, contributions to the YouTube channel, new revenue streams, including art and writing retreats on campus that we would sort of give our labor to, let the college keep tuition, a national campaign for liberal arts, and supporting admissions. And some of those ideas got going, and I and Melanie Gottlieb, O2, who is the deputy director of the American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Alumni Officers, started working together with the admissions office here to create some kind of network of academic alumni and then later, hopefully, high school teachers to support admissions. And that project just disappeared on November 6th. And I've recently been in touch with people on campus about it, and I think we've worked it out, and we're all okay, and we're friends, but I didn't hear anything for 5 weeks after that announcement, and I think that's indicative of the relationship with alumni right now, which is very ambivalent. I think this process needs all of us, faculty, staff, students, alumni, trustees, friends of the college, and the town. The higher ed crisis is fierce and scary, but you just have to be less scared. You just have to be less scared. That's how I am in my work. Emerson, I think, will probably be eaten by Boston University within 5 or 10 years. So we could keep getting eaten by bigger fish, or we could try to be flexible and small and nimble and supported. So the alumni just want you to partner with us. Partner with us. You don't have to go it alone. You can partner with us. And I have here some documents for the trustees. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Aaron Pelarsic, and I'm currently a senior at Marlboro College. I transferred to Marlboro College from Wesleyan University after I took a break in between. And first, I just wanted to start by talking about what Marlboro College has meant to me. I was very fortunate to grow up in a very supportive family, and I had a wonderful education down in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, probably one of the best school systems in Massachusetts. And I was put through a number of programs for gifted students because I was testing very far ahead of my grade level. So I was testing like at the high school level when I was in elementary school. And I was lucky enough to go to Wesleyan, which has like an 8% acceptance rate. And when I was thinking of finishing my college education, I spent a really long time looking at schools, and I came to the conclusion that of all the schools out there, Marlboro College was the only one I wanted to go to finish my education. I visited maybe 5 times and met with not only the faculty and students, but the overall community. And I was sure this was the right place. And since I've come here, I've realized that decision was completely correct. And not only that, my love for the school has grown. I feel like this school is one of a kind in the entire world, that there's no place else like it on earth that can offer this experience. There's nowhere else where you can study literally whatever you want. The sky's the limit as far as what you can achieve here. You can meet one-on-one with professors, you can have lunch with them. At Wesleyan, we had office hours for our professors that would last maybe 1 hour. And oftentimes, they looked annoyed when I showed up, and I was lucky to get 1 minute with them. I've been fortunate here too. At Wesleyan, I did research, but here I was able to craft my own research project. And I was contacted by a Nobel laureate that won the Nobel Peace Prize with Al Gore, and she offered to co-author a paper with me. And over the summer, I did that and was actually paid for my work with that. And since then, I've been offered to co-author papers with a number of other scientists. So what I'm seeing with the possible demise of this college is something precious that the whole world needs, could be lost. And I feel like this is a decision that could affect the region and higher education, and to a large part the world, for literally generations to come, for hundreds of years. Once this school is gone, it's gone forever. So I feel like it's vital that we look at all the options that are out there. We have a lot of people, we have 5,000 alumni with great ideas. We have faculty emeriti that have worked at the school for years. We have our current staff and faculty. And we have amazing, amazing people. And if we all come together, instead of, I feel like this could be a community effort where we all listen to each other and we all put our ideas out there. We can always consider the Emerson deal if no other possibility is really there. But while there is still a chance, it's vital that we look at all the options before the school is lost forever. And I also wanted to point out, we've had a little bit of time since the news has been announced, so I've talked with some of the other seniors, and there's been a growing consensus amongst us that we want to try to help the school in any way possible. So we're currently getting together a group, and we'd love to communicate with the staff and other groups that are working, and hopefully through open communication we can all come up with a solution to this. And also, I just wanted to point out, I feel like the Emerson deal should be seen as a last resort, because we have roughly, I think, 142 students. We have a very big senior class, so we're probably going to be down to 80 to 90 students. Of those, we're not sure, but maybe half will go to Emerson. So we're looking at 40 to 50 students that'll go there. They'll graduate in just a few years. They'll be gone, and all that is Marlboro will be the faculty that's at Emerson. And I feel like at that point, Marlboro College will essentially be gone. There'll be a very small contingent of faculty, but it's hard to say what their future will be. So that should really be seen as an absolute last resort.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nelly Sargsyan, and I currently teach at Marlboro College. I can't claim decades of living and teaching here. At the same time, this is my 5th year. At the same time, I don't think that just the number of years is tied necessarily to the amount or the quality of love that I would have for this place. I don't want to quantify my love for this hill, for my colleagues, for my students. And I want to acknowledge that I understand and share that we all care. Whatever positions we're taking today, we're taking them from a place of care for the place, for the education, for the relationships, for the possibilities that emerge by being on this hill and cultivating these amazing, imaginative relationships and projects and learning from each other, faculty from students, students from faculty. I also want to acknowledge that not all my fellow Marlboro College colleagues are going to be able to keep their jobs. So I understand this difficulty, that I am in a position that I have a choice. I also want you to know that this is the place that I would want to teach and work. This is the only place that I would have preferred. So please, please do not speak for faculty and on behalf of that we're broken, we're defanged, or I don't know what else, or that we're not brave enough, or please don't speak for us, okay? And it's not just diminishing the work, the care that we put into our work, but it's also diminishing the work that we're doing with our students. Just like for alumni, Marlboro no one will take Marlboro out of you. You will never lose that. No one will ever take away my Marlboro experience from me. The imaginative thinking and scholarly rigor that becomes possible, no one will take that away from me. I also want to request that we allow space for a variety of voices. So for example, one of the quotes from the alumni was also that I think we should take every opportunity to stress to the board that a separate arrangement for the campus should be integrated into a final Emerson agreement. The campus should continue to be used for the purposes for which it was intended. Either or Emerson should help to facilitate that either by selling it on reasonable terms to an organization dedicated to continuing Marlboro legacy, or by keeping it open as part of the Marlboro Institute, or both. So there are other approaches to this. So I think it's important to hold the complexities, different perspectives together rather than homogenizing and sharing it as the perspective of this one constituency. I also want to acknowledge that my colleague William Edelglass did respond to the alumni letter, so I'm not sure why that was a resounding silence. I also want to acknowledge that I love finding out things that Marlboro alumni are doing because of their time and the things that have become possible on the Hill, because I know they've taken skills that allow them to be creative, and that's all I've got. Just acknowledging that we all love the place, but if we can do without blaming each other. And as for the challenge that was put forward by Will, I think in his book he also talks about how working in a small college means like living on the edge constantly, and the impact that it can have on you and your overall well-being, but also that this process has been going on for a long time, and the 7 days could have been used at a much earlier stage. Thank you.
Thanks. It doesn't help that Nelly just made me cry. But my name is Dina Davis. I graduated in 1972. I was also staff for 3 years. President of an earlier iteration of the Alumni Association, and now I am on the board. Like a lot of you, I grew to adulthood on this campus. I met the love of my life here. I learned to cross-country ski, and I made an igloo. And I have a doctorate and a JD, and I teach in higher ed, and I owe all of that to the training that I got here. And I want to explain why I support the deal with Emerson, even though I agree completely that it ought to be considered the last resort. So it's very, very hard to believe, because we love this place so much, that we cannot survive yet one more near-death experience as we have before. Many people have said, look, we only need to recruit 100 students a year. Somewhere there have got to be 100 students like I was when I came here, who recognize the value of what Marlboro has to offer. Like the rest of the board, I've been saying that for years and years. We have looked to homeschooled people, to veterans, to locals, to international students, and still every year our enrollment goes down, and even with an unsustainable discount rate of nearly 75%, and every year we need to take a bigger chunk out of our endowment to fill that gap. One of the things I found particularly striking was that under the leadership of Fumio in admissions, I think inquiries about Marlboro just about doubled, and yet our entering class was lower. So this notion that if only people knew about Marlboro, of course they would come, is, unfortunately hard for me to believe. So when you're a trustee, you have the luxury of denial for only so long. We could forge ahead for another year or two and end in shambles, or we can make a move now while we are still relatively strong and have some leverage. So heartbroken as I am about this, I believe that the deal with Emerson is our best bet. I think this is the best deal for perhaps half, perhaps the majority of our students, and I know it is the best deal for the majority of our faculty. How do I know it is the best deal for our faculty? Because they tell me so. The faculty on the Strategic Operating Task Force and many others as well. And as long as the faculty tells me that this is the best deal for them, then that is what I am going to support. Thank you.
I'm Pieter van Loon. I graduated in 1988, and I guess I'd just like to say I guess I didn't understand how much this place meant to me until this happened. I have a lot of notes. I'm not sure how much of them I'm actually going to use. I think one of the things that's been most frustrating for me is through this process, it seems to have been done more or less behind closed doors. And there, as many people have said before me, there wasn't a wide enough variety of voices. I think the process was flawed in that it didn't ask especially more of the community and what the community would like to see happen and how the community could contribute to keeping the college here. I came to Marlboro as a student. I've lived here ever since I graduated. I raised my kids here. I can't imagine the place without Marlboro College. My wife, Rachel, suggested that I make the point. Somebody said earlier that at one point there were 300 students here and it was a vibrant community. When I was here, early on in my career, there were around 140 students here, and it was quite a vibrant community then as well. Right. At that point, Rod Gander got us all together, and he said, if you're not a sophomore at this college, you're unlikely to graduate from here. This is not an entirely new problem that we're facing. Past administrations and boards of trustees have faced this, and they have used diversification of the curriculum to maintain Marlboro College. And it's not clear to me that that has been fully explored here, and I would like for that to happen. I would like the board to be brave, to step back from this deal, this gift to Emerson, and re-engage and try to imagine a new future for Marlboro. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I had the pleasure of organizing what was originally the vigil. The board responded with kindness, I think, to open up a public comment section, and I want to acknowledge and appreciate that. Thank you. I've been conducting a listening project, an informal listening, not judging, but tell me what you saw. Tell me what you saw. What did you see? Just as a means to understand how in the world we got here. Last summer, I remember thinking, wow, how is Marlboro still surviving? Everyone else is closing. That's really cool. And then I was like, oh, they weren't. I just didn't know. I didn't know they were taking from the endowment to survive. What if I had known? What if the other alumni had known? What about that untapped resource, that living energy that is not on the balance sheet? Why was that never tapped? I get public relations. You can't tell the general public, we're not doing so well. But somehow, we are an enormous resource. I am still open for listening, but right now I have my talking hat on. I feel that in 1998, about this time of year, when I was completing my plan of concentration, when I was in the gallery outside Whitmore, I had my architectural drawings on the wall. I built a contemplative garden in the forest. I had my 3 faculty advisors there, and they're all here today. You know, imagine us sitting in that space. Outside examiner is there. And she starts. She says, oh, I read your paper. I have some questions. And I say, no. I researched everything. Trust me, it's fine. And they all stand up, all 4 of those people looking in on my work, and they say, okay, good job. And then I get a diploma, and we're all on our way. I think in this case, we just have some questions. We would like to see the information that you based your assessments on. We think there's energy that hasn't been pulled into this equation. And thank you again. Thank you again for opening this up today.
Hi, I'm Ted Smith. I'm a parent trustee, and I'm very humbled to be here as a relative newcomer to this community, but I've heard about it for years. My wife went to Putney, and they always spoke admiration of Marlboro College. And of course, I'm Irish way back. But my daughter had an amazing time here, and it is a unique place. And we're here to listen. We're here to hear whatever options might be viable. We have made a good faith effort on the board to rescue Marlboro College for the past 4 years, when we realized that Marlboro and other small independent schools in the Northeast were facing an existential crisis. Why? Why were we facing this? Well, what we offer, rigorous student-directed education, quite expensive education, is not affordable by the students and parents who value it. Why is that? Why is that now an issue? Well, all of us are aware of the hollowing out of the middle class in the United States by casino capitalism, by declining population in the Northeast, by big tech, by globalization. The big higher education model is fundamentally flawed and broken. $1.6 trillion in student debt is a disgrace, is unacceptable. People have reached their limit. Some people in this community went into debt in order to get a college education here. So our discount rate has gone from 30% since I joined the board to over 70% today. Ironically, if we get more students, we have more debt. It's a horrible place to be in. So we found an option for students, most importantly, and for faculty in the curriculum. We're still looking for an option for the campus. We're still open, and we're still open to any viable options that you folks are here. We're here to listen. I'm sorry I'm taking up the time, but we'll make sure everybody gets an opportunity to talk today. We don't have a deadline. Thank you.
My name's Martin Hack, and I assure you I am absolutely nobody. I am a concerned citizen and resident of Putney, Vermont. I live about 4 houses down from where Walter Hendricks lived in my town on the same road. And this came to my attention through a student, and I researched it a little bit, and it seemed kind of sad that this place might have a hard time to survive. And there's clearly a lot of people in here that have a great deal of knowledge of education and how a college works. And the one thing I'm absolutely certain of is that I'm not one of them. I was reading a lot of these plan books the other day in the library, and I came across a couple that they kind of did their, I know it's not called a thesis, I guess it's called a plan, on the history of Marlboro College. I think they both did an extraordinary job, and I read every page of what they wrote. With the help of one of the librarians, I also came across a statement from President Dr. Hendricks of the first year of the school, 1947. And I certainly don't have the time, nor do I think it would be appropriate to read the whole thing, but right at the top of the sentence, right at the top of his statement, 1947, it starts out a statement from the president, and again, this is the 1947 brochure for Marlboro College. It states, Marlboro will be a small college in the country. It continues, a different paragraph. The college itself will remain a functioning community. Students will help in the operation of the college farm and in the construction of new buildings. Different section, Marlboro's courses are planned to help students fit themselves for fully living wisely among their fellow men and taking active part in public affairs. So he goes on quite a while about what he had his dream of this college being. And as I understood the history a little better, this was his farm, his second home in the country for 15 years before ever the idea of Marlboro College came into existence with him and some of his colleague teachers like Frost and others. And as I'm reading this and I'm doing some of the research, and Dick came up behind me while I was talking to the librarian, and he said, she called him Dick, and I turned around and I said, are you the Richard or the Dick that's part of the board of directors? And he looked back at me and he said, well, that depends who's asking. So, yeah, and so we talked for a moment there, and I really appreciated the concern that he had. I reiterate once more, I really don't have too much background here. I'm one of those people who just barely graduated high school. And I think of that song from the Cheers show so many years ago, everybody knows your name. Sometimes you want to go to a place like that. And I feel sometimes what might get missed here in all this talk and discussion is who can thrive in a place like Marlboro College that maybe can't thrive in a Boston school or in a big city. And sometimes they're students that maybe they're bright, maybe they have a lot of potential, but maybe they can thrive better when they have the human interaction that comes where you go to a campus and virtually everybody knows your name. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Jonathan Morse. I've been a resident of Marlboro since 1981. In 1981, my new construction firm was hired to complete what was then called the campus center. I don't know what it's called now, where the cafe is and the bookstore is or was. I'm not even sure because I don't come out to the college that often. But Marlboro and the people associated with Marlboro are integral to our town. Our town is identified by Marlboro. Have we been consulted? No. Has anyone, you talk about openness, and I understand that there have been many faculty and students, or some faculty and students, and I don't want to diss them at all. I know that they have worked very hard on the various committees that they've been on, but since the Emerson gift was announced, there's probably been 150 people who have come out to meetings at the Marlboro Community Center with concerns about how this town will survive. And I think it's incumbent on you to include us in the deliberation process, in the process of figuring out what the heck do we do with this wonderful place.
I was driving home from Putney yesterday and I saw the Exit 2 sign that said Marlboro College on it, and I was thinking, which one of us is going to take that down and put it on our barn? Might be me. I want to say, to just start off, I have gotten to know the board a little bit over this last year, unfortunately on these terms. And I really respect everyone working on the board and the administration, and I really believe in their intentions, and I believe in their loyalty, and I believe that they're doing what they're thinking is best on a voluntary basis, and I really appreciate that, including this open forum right now. I graduated in 2004, so I'm an alumni of the college, and then in 2016 I joined the faculty, first as a fellow and now as a visiting professor. I'm not tenure or tenure track, so I'm at this strange nexus between the staff and the faculty. It's not really clear where I reside. What I have learned from the faculty is that teaching at Marlboro, the longer you teach here, the more difficult it is to find a job in your field. Marlboro College, unlike other colleges, require at least 4 days on campus, which means you cannot really have the time or the energy to create scholarly work, which is a requirement for employment in any other tenure track position in any university in the country. And being an alumni of Marlboro College, it is generally my impetus to fight against injustice. And the reason I'm not fighting is because I love my faculty brethren. I do not want to create a situation or be responsible for them not getting employment when they have been disadvantaged. But what I'm seeing here in this whole process is an inverse proportion between impact and agency. As this process has progressed, like those who are going to be impacted most by this decision have the least voice, and the further that you get from a lived experience on this campus, the more decision-making power you have. As a filmmaker and as a teacher here, narrative is very important in my life, and the narrative I keep on hearing is that it's the Marlboro DNA. That's why we're taking this deal. I am more than willing to fight for the jobs of my fellow faculty members. But to imply that I, as a faculty, have had more impact on my students than Catherine O'Callaghan, than the library staff, than Tanner, than Patrick, than the staff on this campus is nothing but classism and arrogance. And to imply that the pedagogy is going to survive if 20-odd faculty go into a giant host of over 200 faculty, we are not carrying our pedagogy there. We are a virus trying to infect a host with a lot of antibodies. And so I really hope that as we think that the faculty is going to carry our pedagogy and that that is our DNA, not this campus, not this town, not the students, not the staff, not Windham County in general. I just really hope that we start looking at ways to shift that relationship between impact and agency, and we start raising the voice of all of us who are impacted the most. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Sharoan.
I'm
it's
sorry.
Okay. I don't spell it phonetically. So, I know the process is really hard, and so many people spoke so well. I guess first I had the opposite experience at my orals than Amy had at her orals. So, I'm a dancer, and I was I think I might have been the first dance major that was, I was dance and literature, but as part of my plan, because I left a school like Emerson, I left Point Park University, or not what was college then. Their majors are communications, theater, dance, musical theater, and mortuary science. My roommate was musical theater and mortuary science. It was a beautiful camp. So the dorms were in an old Sheraton hotel. We all had bathrooms. The studio facilities were amazing. The theater was it was not state of the art, I'm sorry, I live on Peaks Island. It was the old Pittsburgh Playhouse. The experience was extremely valuable to me, but it was not the experience that was gonna make me a dancer. So in my process, one of the things that ballet dancers don't do is we don't trust ourselves, because we go into studios and we stand as we should. And then we realize that as we're standing, our bodies are doing things they shouldn't. Like we shouldn't sweat. We shouldn't shake. We shouldn't lose our balance. We shouldn't fall. We shouldn't do all these things. And so at my time at Point Park, the faculty was amazing. I got to step out of the ballet box, but I was not allowed to take anything but English 101 my first semester because I was permitted one academic. I was then, we could get dance notation in there, and then maybe we could do a psychology or something because that might help us. So anyway, I took advantage of the city. I grew up in New Orleans. I went to Pittsburgh, and that was great. But I would probably be dead if I continued there. So that's my Marlboro experience. And then when I came to Marlboro, and I decided that I wasn't going to be dancing because it was too hard. And so Marlboro, for me, was based on trust. And what Marlboro, oh shoot, already? Okay, so the tenet of trust and the idea of trusting yourself came from Marlboro. And so my plan had about 35 performers aging from maybe 9 to 30 or something. I had 20 kids from Brattleboro School of Dance. I had Marlboro students. I did an hour-and-a-half performance. Hamlet as a modern piece. Faust as a classical ballet. My outside examiner was like, well, there's scholarship and there's some grammatical issues, but why didn't you use dancers? I said, what? Why didn't you use dancers, was his. So as I keep going back, and I'm really going to try to be concise, is I had to take to task all the very reasons that I didn't use dancers and what it meant to trust and to move in the world. And when I think about that, and I think about the language Marlboro gave me, Berger would say, flesh out your thing. I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. I couldn't, so my plan was really hard for me to write. I was supposed to go back for grammatical fixings or something, but the reality of it is there's a culture here of trust, and that starts with trust in self. And I am just still learning what I learned at Marlboro, so I agree that it is in each one of us as people, as alumni, as people in our communities, to go out and to be Marlboro. It's because of the massive information that I learned at Marlboro, I'm still learning 26 years later. And just like any culture, I work in a lot of nonprofits, fundraising, failing theaters, creating cultural venues. Unless you have a place, just like language is lost, we will be lost. There is no anchor if you have no children to come forth. It doesn't, and if more students equals more debt, maybe we're not looking at traditional students. Maybe we are looking at programming, and please, I ask the board, extend the timeline. If we have 2 years, can we not offer alliances and partnerships for other universities that don't have labs, that don't have interdisciplinary work, to come for a semester, come for 2 semesters, come for a year, but let us offer what we can offer on this campus. I don't believe if we separate communities, I'm not opposed to Emerson. I'm sure Emerson does great things, and they do, but we could maybe separate the 2 communities of the current community and the community of past and future, and support both with some compromise, with an extension of the timeline to allow our working groups to not be set up to fail, our faculty to not be set up to fail. It will be less than 1% of the population in a large city on the commons with no greens. I have to stop, I know, and I'm sorry, and thank you.
I'm C.J. Churchill. I graduated from Marlboro in 1991, and I never thought that I would return to say goodbye in a way like this. This is the kind of place that you just kind of assume continues, and have put a lot of faith in those who are shepherding it along. I was very touched by Pete van Loon's comments. I got here a few years after he did. And I can testify that the student body population at the time was around 180 or so when I got here. Freshman year, lunchtime, Pete's dad, Pete van Loon, came in and said, there's a truck of catalogs waiting outside. If you're really part of the community, come out there and unload it. So we said, all right, let's do that. And I thought, wow, this is a really special experience. I've never had anywhere else to be asked to participate. And that began an experience for me, which led to lots of work on committees. I became head select person, much to my plan sponsor's chagrin. Geraldine Pittman and Jerry Levy, who were my beloved plan sponsors back then. But this brings me to me, one of the things I think is at the crux of this. I just finished 18 years as a professor at a small college where there was no transparency. And I left partly because I have another career as a psychoanalyst. I'm very happy in it. And I was very happy to leave academia behind because it's been ruined in a lot of ways. But this is one of those places where it gets preserved. And part of the way it gets preserved is through transparency and a real commitment to participatory democracy. And I don't think that has been a part of this process. Many of the trustees here today are friendly faces to me. I served on the board as the alumni representative from 2006 to 2009. And I know that they come to this place in good faith and great generosity. But I have to ask if there's another possibility. And one of those possibilities seems to me to take Will Wooten's proposal seriously. It seems to me to be one of the best, most coherently argued options on the table. And, I see my career as testimony to what this place does. This place brings in people who are not going to follow the normal path. They're not going to make a lot of money probably as they go forward, but they're going to have really interesting careers and shape the world, and they're going to bring with them that commitment to a democratic process that this country desperately needs, as we all know now more than ever. And if a place like this goes out like a flash in the night, it's just like our democracy, which might be on the verge of doing that right now itself. And I have to just say one other thing can I speak for just one more minute? I'll just say two quick things. When I was head select person, every time I would attend a faculty meeting and have to leave when the closed session would start, Jerry Levy would turn to me and say, off to write another chapter of Small School in Mass Society. And what was funny to us about it is that, yes, this is a small institution within the context of higher education, which is very problematic, but it has always been able to be different and to survive as such. And I think there's got to be a way beyond what has been proposed. And I say that with full empathy to the current students, staff, and faculty whose livelihoods and educations are on the line here and have to be taken quite seriously. And one last point, in the spirit of transparency, it just seems particularly odd to me that the current president of the college has said nothing so far. And I say this almost as invitation because I thought after Dick spoke, Kevin would speak, and then we'd have the open session, so we'd hear from you as well. So that seems to me to be absolutely necessary for us to think about this well. That's all I have to say.
I had not intended that the president would speak. I suppose he can say a few words. I really feel it's most important to hear from the people who want to speak. Kevin often speaks publicly in a town meeting and so on. And I don't mean that I should dominate it either, so.
Thank you. First off, Richard and Kevin, I really appreciate the work that you've done. I think that there's been an emphasis in what hasn't been right. But I have to congratulate you. I went to a dance performance here just a few nights ago. The classroom, the children and the youth that I saw here, they were the most exciting class I have ever seen at Marlboro College. You brought this people. That was the Marlboro College that I knew was here. And that's what I want to inspire you. I'll do my best to. I really am talking to these guys. I'm sorry. The Z generation. Are you familiar with it? They're just starting college. We didn't attract them because they're still in high school. They're pulling microplastics out of the ocean. There's a 16-year-old girl bringing the concept of global climate change to the front page of every newspaper. This is the Z generation. And after them, Generation Alpha. And I want to tell you, This college was built by veterans of the World War, World War II. 77 million, is that correct? How many people died in World War II? Not the veterans who survived D-Day came to this college, endeavored to build an institution of progressive higher education. They were never concerned with an endowment. They were never preoccupied with the next class and how much fiduciary responsibility might be passed around. And I'll tell you, when I heard about the imminent closure of my alma mater, it was during Veterans Day week. And I was devastated and frankly incensed. And that's when the two of you, I'll tell you, I had a word for you. There was no mention of Hugh Mulligan. There was no mention on Veterans Day, while discussing the closure of this college with the veterans who built the college, or the town that donated the farms that we are standing on in this wonderful gentrified space, which, by the way, is where John MacArthur's planetary, it's just a lot to, and I'm going to close up because I'm sure that everyone's done with me. I'm going to just say something personal about my own experience here. And it was about trust. The MacArthur Foundation told me about Marlboro College. They convinced me, I was kind of hot in my field of evolutionary biology, and they convinced me to come here and meet with the professors here and see if I could make it work here because it seemed like a good fit for me. And I came here and I was inspired, and yeah, you know what? My academic experience here was not great. I would like to build a college that I was sold to, that I sold myself to, that I was sold on. I want to see a Marlboro 2.0. And I'll tell you, maybe some of you already know this, but I'm the bastard son of a totalitarian dictator, giving up a little bit of my anonymity. I was never safe in any school. I moved from school to school with a different alias every few generations, or every few semesters, rather. I came here, I met some of the finest friends, some of them faculty. I was on the daycare, I worked at the daycare, I worked in the kitchen, I worked on the maintenance crew. Some of the finest people I have ever met were right here. The community. So I will just sign off by saying that Marlboro College doesn't need saving. Yes. No GI who survived D-Day gave up. They put the shoulder and they kept it going. Marlboro is not going down with a whimper. Thank you.
Hello. I am a current student at Marlboro College. I am a member of the Z generation of which Kermit spoke. The second student to speak today, the first member of that generation, and the first student to speak who is currently facing the choice of whether or not to go to Emerson next year, who is really facing the effects of this merger firsthand. I'm a junior right now. I live here. I'm deeply involved on campus. I'm a full-time student. I'm on select board. I work in the admissions office, and until recently have been a tour guide. I've taken people into the plan room and said, this is my favorite room on the tour, and I've told them, if you come to Marlboro, and you graduate here, you will have a book in this room. And people came here after I said that, and that did turn out to be not true for many of those people, possibly including myself. So I just want to start with that, because that's my perspective, and I'm here right now. And I see a lot of people here, and a lot of people who have spoken today, who aren't here right now, who have been community members in the past, and who of course still have a very deep connection to Marlboro, and that's admirable. I love Marlboro, and this is a deep loss for all of us. But, and I'm not sure about the merger right now, but I do believe that it is, in a lot of ways, a last resort. And I understand that a lot of people weren't communicated with, but I'm frustrated because I feel like a lot of things that have been going on have not included current community members. I feel like both the task force to determine the merger only had one student on it, but I'm also worried about the fact that a lot of the alums right now are taking action very quickly, and as far as I can tell, not really listening to the students and current community voices that are speaking out. Thank you. And I know there are students who are trying to fight for saving Marlboro, Marlboro 2.0. I'm sure there are. I haven't necessarily seen or heard a lot of their voices, but I don't want to discount that. But there are also a lot of students who are losing their physical home. This is where we live right now. I leave Marlboro. The closest thing I have to a home is 400 miles away, and I really don't live there anymore. I live here. So I just want to say that, and also that this is bigger than Marlboro. This is a problem that is facing the whole world. We are in a world right now that cannot support a place like this, and that's so sad. But unfortunately, I feel like if we're trying to save Marlboro, we have to fundamentally change our society at a deeper level first. The fact that we have to be profit-driven, the fact that a school like this, if it doesn't make money, people will look at it and say, well, this isn't worthwhile. And I see that I am at my time, so I just also want to say, because of the fact that this was originally a vigil for silent students, I want to take a moment to recognize people all over the world who are silenced violently and by oppressive regimes, people who are arrested at protests in this country, journalists imprisoned in other countries, LGBT people who are sometimes killed for living their truths, and I want to recognize people all over the world who are violently silenced. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Charlie. I am a junior here at Marlboro. I am also the current head select person, which has put me in a bit of a difficult place because, on Thursday, I've been working with Meg Mott my whole time here, and part of my work with her is focused on the work that I'm doing for this community. And so I'd write an essay on my experience of being head select person this semester, and it broke my heart to write that because I finally verbalized all the things that had been floating around in my mind about the situation we're in. And at this point, in this most pivotal moment, we can no longer be thinking about what we could have done, what we should have done, what we would have liked to do, because right now there are people who are being affected by this every single day. Every single day I walk onto campus as the head select person, the last head select person of Marlboro College, and it breaks my heart to know that people will not be able to experience this place as it is, but it's also my job to steward this community through this time of crisis. And so I step onto campus every day thinking about how can I take care of my peers? How can I keep people informed? How can I keep pushing forward and making the time that we still have here the best as possible? We cannot continue poking through the minutiae of our past, everything that we did wrong, because we did do things wrong. This was not the most transparent process. I don't think there was much representation, and that's okay, because we have to accept what is happening, and we need to work to make the next semester on this campus the best as possible. We need to support our students now who are living this every day, who are looking for other schools to transfer to, who are trying to figure out how they're gonna pay for housing in Boston, who are trying to figure out like how they're gonna finish their plan. And what I will say is that I don't think that Emerson is a last-ditch effort. I think that closing this school completely is the last-ditch effort. And I would much, much rather graduate from Emerson with Emerson on my degree, with faculty members that I know and that I have worked with in a place that's foreign to me, than to be the last ever graduating class of Marlboro College. Because at least if there is some semblance of Marlboro at Emerson and we can imbue our spirit there, I don't think we're a virus in a big pond. I think that we are a strong coalition of students, and we can bring so much love and light and democracy to Emerson, and I would much rather do that than fighting with ourselves in this place, because it is exhausting. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Charlie's been a wonderful contributor at our board meetings, too. That's it. We've run over quite a bit, but we wanted to hear from everybody. Thank you all very much for coming, and please do keep in touch with the board. I know the board understands that people want to, and we, believe me, we understand the impact of this. And if you want us to understand it further, please be in touch with us. We're quite accessible.
Could you put email addresses on the college website, trustee page, and contact info?
I think the easiest thing is that Tracy can send stuff out all around to us, and that may be she's got all the lists and the addresses, and so Tracy is, where'd Tracy go? Okay, Tracy is Kevin's administrative assistant, and she's at the office of the president, and I think that's easy to find. Let's set it up. One way or another, we'll get those channels of communication going. Thank you all very much.